Hey there, sweet friends. I hope you're all well. I am so happy to welcome you all to day 4 of our 12 Days of Christmas in July tutorial series. If you're just joining in, you can find a link at the top of the description for the first 3 days so you can get caught up. And don't forget to listen throughout the video for the question of the day. Before we get started, I did want to take a quick second to thank the Tech Hubby for once again providing us with an amazing intro for our series, and this year he also created the music to go along with it, so it's even that much more special. So if you are enjoying that intro as much as I am, give Tech Hubby some love in the comments. And for today, we are working with larger patterns to create cards that have loads of layers and festive details. So if that sounds good to you, then stick around and we'll make it together. I've got that Candy Cane Lane collection here. This is from Prima, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's very shabby chic and very vintage, a little bit retro, and so I think it really works well for a shabby chic inspired project. I have passed on this before only because some of the imagery is a little bit large and difficult to work with, and I find that is true of a few different brands that I would really like to have, specifically Minte. I absolutely love them, but it's just hard to make them into cards. And so I'm going to evaluate how I use the paper. So of course I can obviously cut apart these tags and use those as my focal image. And I would typically stack my patterns and then die cut or fussy cut my focal image to put on top. For the cards I'm making today, we're going to use the pattern as the focal image. So that is going to be part of the whole design of the card, is a larger image. So let's check out that page that inspired me to create these cards, and I'll tell you why I chose this particular pattern is because I absolutely love this deer and then this sweet little Santa Claus face. So to my way of thinking, I could get 2 focal images or 2 focal patterns in this case, and then also enough to fill the inside. And you all know that I like to add my pattern paper inside as well for a nice finished look. So I'm going to cut this. I'm missing a couple of pieces here, must have been tossed as I was working along, but this is going to be 1 image, this is going to be 2 images, and then I have enough also to cover the inside. So let's take these pieces out, and then this would be the leftover scrap. Here's our base. And one of the things I considered before actually starting this project was to increase the height. And so typically I would be making a 6.5 by 5 inch greeting card. I decided to do 7 by 5, which still sort of falls in those standard measurements. I don't typically do it because I'm trying to get the most use out of the paper. So this is sort of new to me, but I will give you the measurements as we work along. So the reason I wanted that extra bit of paper was to line the inside of these cards. And so I have my cardstock cut to be 6 7/8 by 4 7/8. And then I'm going to bring this pattern paper in, and this one is 6 3/4 by 4 3/4, and that is just going to give me a nice border of my cardstock along with the base. Now, as you can see on this piece, I do have a little bit of that nutcracker showing, and I do want to hide that. So let's just put a little bit of offcut from one of the other patterns. So those same measurements will work for this top layer as well. I just chose that diagonal stripe because this is going to make a really nice border around the raised section that we're going to add next. So just get that centered and added. I've got so many layers of paper now. This card is so thick and sturdy. Now we'll work on the raised section. So the cardstock measurement is 6 1/4 by 4 1/4. And I do have that up on foam just to build up those layers of dimension. Here is that image that was, remember, in the right-hand corner. The image here is more focused on the bottom left. So we're going to add this to our cardstock. The width is going to be 4 1/8. You need to arrive at a height of 6 1/8 also, but because of where I had to cut these, I'm going to have to layer on some more patterns, which of course I would do anyway, so that is fine. And I just have this one cut to be the same width, so 4 1/8 on that, and that will bridge the distance that I need to fill in that space. I want to incorporate a doily, but obviously I can't put the whole one on here because there's just not enough room. So I cut my doily out of crisp white cardstock and then I clipped it in half. So I'm going to use the same doily, but for both cards. I'm just going to add a little bit of Tombow there, and then I'll center that here. This is going to help break up a little bit of that busy paper pattern and give us a little bit of extra detail. I've prepared my flower arrangement here. And so because I have a really large focal image, I'm going to come in and balance it with an equally large flower arrangement. So I've got 3 flowers here, and then I did alternate the colors that were inspired by those patterns here. I've also incorporated my usual die cut foliage, including some branches, so that's a little bit more festive. The netting, another layer of greenery here, and then also some die cut glittery stars. That will definitely help to fill that in and make this a little bit more extra special. So the last thing I want to add is some charms, and for this card I do want to just incorporate those underneath the flowers because I don't want to have a button showing on this arrangement so that it would be unbalanced. So I just have these little snowflake charms, and I did tie them on strings so that I could get them to land precisely where I wanted. And as I usually do, I'll just tack those on with a little hot glue, and then I'll top it with that flower arrangement. And you can also see in the corner, I have a bow that is created with a diamond satin. This is a beautiful trim from Really Reasonable Ribbon, and it was inspired by that background pattern there. So even though pink might have been a choice that I could have used, I think alternating that to the background pattern helps to show this flower in better detail. Matting that with hot glue, just being careful to hide those cut strings. Once I've pressed that into place, I can just come back and really refluff those flowers. These are the Cinch and Go poinsettias, and so they are very easy to reshape. You definitely want to get all the dimension from them because they are bringing in so much detail. So the last bit for this card front is going to be some sequins. I've got to put them down here. Remember, we're trying to go for balance, and I will incorporate these with my Tombow. One last layer of detail for this card, and it's totally optional and not always showing up very well on camera, but you can add a little bit of this diamond stickles just to the ends of these petals, and that will give it a little bit of sparkle and glitter on the ends. As I mentioned, it's pretty subtle on camera, but in real life, you can definitely tell it's there. Or flocking, I think that would be lovely as well. I didn't order it in time to get it, but I think a frosted poinsettia would be really lovely on this style of card where it's shabby chic and bringing the textures and the layers and the softer colors. So that's going to be it for card 1. Card 2 has those same measurements, so let's get the inside finished first. These papers are foiled, so that makes them a little bit fancier. While I'm working along, I will mention that the orientation of this card is going to be slightly different because the image is higher, and so we're going to have the image on top and the florals more or less on the bottom, and that way we can have everything showing. So this is a good time as I'm working for the question of the day, and I think I would like to know if you all prefer to have eggnog or hot chocolate as your holiday drink. I know it's a little hard to think about that when it's in the 80s here in Michigan today. I don't really want either, but I'm going to pick hot chocolate, even though I do like eggnog, because I really can have that with my coffee as well. So maybe I can incorporate that into a little treat for the morning time. Let me know in the comments what is your pick. So here's that beautiful deer. This also has some printed candies on there and some poinsettias that already have a place, and they will show partially behind our flower arrangement. So it's kind of like getting extra flowers for that display. Remember, we have that layering pattern to fill in the space. You could make this, I think, with flowers that were not shaped and then leave out that foam to get it a little bit more flat. It's still quite a few layers though, so if you're looking for it to fit in a standard size envelope, I don't think that would work out so well, but I think you could reduce a little bit of the shipping by getting it flat. So that's just something to think about. Here is the same doily. Remember, we cut that in half. And this time our flower arrangement will be in the lower section, so this orientation looks more like an L. I have all the same elements and the stars included. See, I want to position that so that I can see some of the flowers behind, and that kind of brings that into my arrangement. I'm going to make sure to cover the cut ends here of that doily, so I just lowered that slightly, and now this really anchors that bottom corner. For this one, I do have a beautiful charm here that is a reindeer, and so I do need to incorporate that with a button. So let's tack that on this side. Top that with a button. Then to get our balance, our sequins are going to have to go up here. So let's put them just in this section here where it goes slightly over the image. So that will be a nice layering effect. Then we'll finish this card off with the same stickle detail. So while I'm working on that, I will say that's going to be it for day 4. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure you come back tomorrow for day 5. Comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And remember to check in the description for links. As always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day. And I thank you so much for watching. Bye.